Welcome to the Property Couch, where each week you get to listen to two of Australia's leading experts. Bryce Holdaway, co-host of Location Australia on Foxtel's Lifestyle Channel, co-host of Escape from the City on the ABC, and partner of Empower Wealth Advisory. Ben Kingsley, chair of Property Investors Council of Australia and the founder of Empower Wealth Advisory, named the 2018 and 2019 Property Advisory Firm of the Year. Stay tuned as they bring you the insider's guide to property, finance and money management.
All right, folks, welcome back to the summer series of the Property Couch podcast, and welcome to you, 2022.
Happy New Year.
Mate, you've been waiting for a long time to blow that streamer, mate. But Happy New Year, mate.
Happy New Year to you too, buddy.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Another year, another opportunity to transform some more people. And today's episode is a very good opportunity for us to do that very thing, because we are having a chat with someone who is the transformative power of having a shared financial agenda with their significant other that makes all the difference for this particular couple. So we have an amazing conversation with Matt today, and I think there's a lot in it for a lot of people. So Ben, I reckon we might cut to the interview that we had with Matt, hear what he has to say, and then you and I will circle back towards the end. What do you reckon?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, let's cut to the conversation we recently had with Matt. All right, Ben, we've got a very special guest today on the summer series of the Property Couch podcast. We are chatting with Matt today. First of all, welcome to the Property Couch, Matt.
Thanks, guys. You've been yapping away in my ears for the last few years, so now I get to do the same back to you.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to that. There's the summer series. It's no secret. It's all about financial transformation and where people have been and where they are and where they're headed. So it's an exciting time for both Ben and I to get to know you, get to know your story, and then ultimately see how many lessons that we can pick out of your story that our community can benefit from. So let's go back to the beginning. Let's kick it off. We'd love to know what the money lessons were like for you growing up as a kid, what the observations and what did you see, and were there any conversations around money happening over the dinner table?
Yeah, so I guess money, it certainly wasn't a forbidden topic. It wasn't a taboo topic. So it was spoken about. I remember mum and dad talking about it often, maybe not the nitty gritty of how they managed their money. But I remember them discussing, high interest rates and credit cards are bad and you need to pay off your mortgage and that type of thing. So I remember those conversations. But as far as money management side of things, I don't recall a great deal.
Paint us a little bit of a picture in terms of the household composition, sort of where did you grow up, and, did you feel financially comfortable, or were there challenges in terms of, finances or money at the time of growing up?
Yeah, so I remember always thinking that money was tight, but we never went without. So, if we needed things for school, or if we, we went on holidays and that type of thing, we just never had the flashy things, the best brand or the most expensive push bike or anything like that. We had the I guess the middle of the road type of things. And and mum and dad, I discovered later on that they were actually really quite good with their money. And we were lucky enough to become expatriates over in Singapore when I was in high school. And mum and dad were very hardworking. Both of them came from, blue collar households. Dad is in particular, single mum, 4 kids, very hardworking. And I know that dad paid to go through university himself. He ended up becoming a civil engineer and was quite successful in the end.
That's a great story, isn't it? In terms of a good footing, but still money not openly discussed at the table. So still some things to learn for yourself in terms of making your own way. Is that a fair assessment?
Definitely, and I think they tried their best to teach me about money. It just didn't always take, and I was shocking with it, absolutely terrible in my teenage years and well into my 20s. It always burnt a hole in my pocket. And I remember when I was thinking about coming onto this podcast, I remembered a story, and It was, I can't remember how old I would have been. I remember being in Singapore at the time, so I would have been probably 14 or so. But Mum and Dad decided to buy me some shares in CC Amateurs and Coca-Cola. And, they were teaching me about dividends and, you're a part owner in this company and, you get, this is your portfolio and it'll grow with time and blah, blah, blah. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, that's really cool. It's, it's $120. What can I spend it on? And I remember, I reckon I had them for about 6 months and all my mates were getting, the latest MP3 player. I can't even remember what it was at the time. It was that sort of in between the Discman and MP3 player or iPods. And I really wanted one. And I knew that I had the money for it and it was in these shares. And I remember being scared to tell Mum and Dad, look, I want to sell these shares so I can go and buy this new MP3 player. And I didn't want to tell them, but I did. And to their credit, they let me do it. They didn't say, no, you're not doing it. They said, well, it's your decision. You go and do it if you want to. And so I did it. And I bought this thing and I can't even remember what it looks like. I probably had it for 3 or 4 months and then it got outdated. It ended up in the bin. Don't know where it went. And it'd be interesting to see how much that $120 would be worth now. But so yeah, it never took. But to their credit, they tried their best.
Did you have what were the observations? Your parents were savers. They were they followed a budget. Or was it just totally invisible? What did you see via osmosis? Given that there was no conversations around it.
Yeah, not totally invisible. I remember them buying investment properties later on. I think they sort of dabbled in shares. It was often spoken about. I guess I just didn't have the tools or definitely didn't have the maturity to manage my money properly. And that didn't come until way later in life when I went through a fair rough patch in my 20s or late 20s, early 30s, I suppose. And there was a mind shift difference right from that point. But it took a long time.
Why do you think the late teens and 20s, to use your words, you were shopping with money? Why were you shopping with money?
I can't work it out. My brother, he was 18 months younger than me, and he was always fantastic with money and still is. I don't know. I guess I was driven, competitive. I wanted to match my mates and that type of thing. And I just needed to grow up, I guess.
It's interesting, isn't it, Matt? I mean, Hong Kong, Singapore, those types of marketplaces. If you're up there as a young teenager, these are technology hubs, right? The latest and greatest stuff is happening there. And you're in an expat community, which usually those communities, there is a bit of, modern stuff happening. There's usually good cash flows. Life's pretty good as an expat in those types of environments. Do you feel like that played a bit of a role in terms of, the peer group pressure that you might have been under?
I think so. I was definitely susceptible to it. We'd sort of gone from, a public school in year 7 over here in Australia, and then went over there. Obviously, Dad started probably making a little bit more cash, and private school over in Singapore, and then we returned a few years later, and I completed VCE in a private school over here. So I was certainly around those type of people that had. I guess a lot more, but for first cars, for example, they had the newer cars or the BMWs or whatever that Mum and Dad had bought.
The European cars versus the Australian cars. Yeah.
That's right. And I was Mum and Dad made me save as much as I could for my first car, and then they would match the what I could save, and I think I got $3,000 or something like that. So they matched it, and I bought myself a Commodore. My brother did a lot better than I did, But yeah, so I mean, like I said, Mum and Dad tried their best, and it just took a long time for it to sink in for me, I guess.
What was the wake up call? You said, through to your late 20s, early 30s. What happened? What was the pivot point?
Yeah, so I met a girl in Singapore at the Australian school there, and this was year 9, year 10, and we ended up. She ended up coming back here and living in Melbourne as well, and we ended up getting married. And I think, it was the time that I joined the police force, and work sort of came first, and then and the money habits just weren't good for either of us, and Then we ended up having 2 little twin boys, and, you know, money was tight, and, you know, work-life balance and pressures, and it just didn't really get a lot better. And ultimately that marriage failed when the boys were 1. And I think at that point, that's when I started there was something changed, and it became, no, there's way more to life here. I really need to start thinking strongly about the future and my financials, and I want to have the good life with my family and be able to provide that.
Now, you gave us a clue there that you work in the police force. You're now a detective in the police force. You're remarried in this current situation. Now, you work in some pretty interesting areas. You know, we're talking drugs, firearms, organised crime, family violence, sexual offending areas. I mean, this is, you know, you see potentially the worst that society can deliver up. And with your wife, Alana, what is that like in terms of how that makes you think about family, how that makes you think about your core values? Because we're really big on, you know, this is obviously money transformations, but everything really for us is about lifestyle design and understanding your values and what everything means to you. So what transition did you go through, you know, with a failed first marriage to start to think about what's important to you and how you show up, and then how you get out the other side of that, and then, you know, how that correlates to, you know, your financial situation?
Yeah, so Alana's also a police officer. She's also a detective. We have such a similar view. And at that particular point in our lives, our goals were identical. We wanted to get to the same place. And, you know, being a police officer, it's certainly not a job for everyone. We see some horrendous things. I've investigated some horrendous crimes over the last 10 or 12 years. And, you know, there's way more to life. And just looking into the future, I think having a partner that was on the same page, that understood work, it seemed a lot easier. It's just, yeah.
So you've coupled up, you've found this sort of, you know, partner for life, and you're starting to think about the future. I mean, you know, how do you, because you're going to have to segment that stuff, right? You have to put that in a compartment, and then you've got to try and, you know, live a normal life. When you are thinking about the future, what are you talking about when it comes to that lifestyle by design, and that, you know, how you create the financial independence that you're looking to create?
More time, more quality time at home with the people that you really care about. You know, there's since been another 2 children come alongside. You know, we're a family of 6 now. Time is so important, and I didn't want to be that person that, you know, has to work well into their 60s or 70s, and, you know, that middle of the road, just, you know, struggling to get by forever. I just wanted security and safety and finances. Like I said, I'm not the best at money management, or I certainly wasn't. And I needed help to do that. And I suppose that trigger point was when I realized, no, I have to actually do something to help us here. And Alana was on the same page the whole way.
Was that help pre-Alana or at the same time as Alana? Because you said that it was a bit of you got a bit derailed with your first wife because you both weren't good money managers. And then you realized that you needed to get better at it. Was that before meeting Alana or at the same time as meeting Alana? How does the two of you fit into that story?
Right then and there. So sort of just in the lead up to meeting Alana. And and this is, I suppose, where we go to money smarts. But the first step for me was The Barefoot Investor. And I remember reading his book. And it was fantastic because it was that basic level that I really needed at the time. And, you know, I set up my little accounts that he recommends, and it was a really good segue. And then I found, as I kept reading, I kept, driving that interest into money management and finances and my future. All of a sudden, this podcast came along and I started listening to it. And then it was that next level of sophistication, I suppose, that I'd found myself out of the bad spot, and I wanted to just improve as quickly as I could. And that's what the Property Couch did a few years ago when I started listening to it. And, then along came Money Smarts and I suppose the need for me, or the realization that I needed to find people or pay or invest into myself, because I didn't know the ins and outs, whereas obviously you guys and people like yourselves do.
And how did that transition go, right? So you started looking, and then you read The Barefoot Investor, and then you come across the podcast. And what was the transition like? Because it's one thing for someone to read our book and then go, that'll be a good system, but it's another thing to actually implement it. So were there any hiccups along the way, or was it just duck to water for you? This was turned up at the right place at the right time?
Yeah, no, so I guess it's expensive, right, to pay for this sort of stuff. And that was the hurdle. And I remember I read the book, and I had my highlighter out, and I probably read it 2 or 3 times. And, I was listening to all the podcasts, and then I'd make Alana listen to it in the car when we're on the way on the holidays or whatever. And I said, yeah, this is what I'm thinking about. And, and she was like, well, let's do it. And I said, yeah, but they're costly, And she's like, yeah, but you said it all yourself. You've just proven it to yourself. This is what we need to do next. So jumped straight in and put the first appointment, and we ended up getting a property investment plan a short time later, and the Money Smart system was sort of set up, and we still use it.
Okay, because there's 2 steps people can take here. They can go a free version where they just go and get on the platform and read the book, and it doesn't cost them anything. But so just to lean in on that detail a bit, you hadn't implemented Money Smarts prior to getting a plan in place, is that right?
No, I think we just started to. So I had started it, but look, and full disclosure here, Money Smarts, I don't follow it to the absolute letter. I'm scared to death of credit cards. We don't use a credit card. So obviously there's no auto sweep function or anything like that. But having said that, we do use a primary offset account. All of our money goes in there. We pay ourselves on a Thursday. We have those set provisions, and we live by that. And you guys have got that saying that I've heard you say it a million times, that look after the pennies and the pounds will take care of themselves. And that is 100% what gets us over the line here, because every week I know that $600 goes into that living lifestyle. That's all we've got in there. Everything else stays in the primary account. And if we are to make decisions about spending big chunks of money, and we have done that, then they are thought out decisions. We know the consequences of making those decisions, and they're certainly not ones that are made lightly. And if we didn't have that, I suppose that's where the slippage happens.
Well, newsflash for you, Matt, you are following it 100%, because in the book, we say that if you're not comfortable with credit, don't do it. And so you are 100% following the system.
Hey, Matt, I'm interested to understand the psychology behind the no credit card rule, right? Because hence, this is what you flagged, that you were spontaneous, you were competitive, you wanted the things when you were, in your teenage years. Is it that, is it the risk around that spontaneity that stopped you from getting a credit card? And now that you're a couple of years into your money management, would that change your view around setting up a credit card, given that you build a bit of discipline and a little muscle memory in terms of running a good system?
I think we could probably do it now. A lot has changed. The fear of credit cards obviously came from that really rough time where the mindset changed, and we were living week to week, and there was no savings, and the credit card debt was just racking up without us even realizing it. And all of a sudden there's thousands of dollars owed with no buffer and no security. And so I guess that's what scared me, and still does. But look, maturity has come along, and we're pretty well set in our plan. And look, it probably could work now.
I think, look, you make a valid point, and that is that you run the Money Smart system the way in which you need it to work for you. And if that's credit cardless, then that's terrific, right? As you say, you still have an option to potentially rediscover that if you need to with the 55-day interest-free period and rolling that over so you get the money in the offset. But look, the reality at the moment is that money in offset with such low interest rates, the savings aren't as big as what they were when interest rates were 5 or 6 or 7%. So, you're not necessarily missing out on a lot there if you can't, control that spending. So that's the big if, right? What you've also, I want to ask you about is the routine and the discipline you have around that 7-day float and that slippage spending. Have you got any stories around getting to the last couple of days? And then, what have you pivoted to? What have you opened the pantry and gone for gold with the 2-minute noodles? Or what's your default there when you have a big weekend and you've got to get through to the following Thursday?
Alana can make something out of nothing. I don't know how she does it. She will find something in the cupboard and she will make it. But look, she's a lot more ruthless than I am with her money habits. So she's unbelievable. She's fantastic. I remember, right at the very start, we really wanted to sort of build up that deposit, and for the first, or for the second one mainly. But when money was tight and we were trying to just save as much as we possibly could, some of the things that she made me do. So I remember we were driving along and the boys needed a new toy box, and they were just so expensive, like to buy from the shops, just a bloody toy box, I remember we're driving along somewhere and she's like, stop the car, I've just seen something. And I'm like, what have you seen? She's like, there's a whole heap of fence palings there. I'm going to make a toy box out of there on hard rubbish. I'm like, oh God, I don't want to be that guy. I'm just stopped on the side of the road. So there we are on the side of the road, and she's putting these fence palings in the back of the car. Mind you, this toy box is epic. You won't find one in the shops like it. It's way better than the ones you could have bought, and it's still here and it'll be here forever, no doubt. But, there was things like that, or like even, those, the squeezy yogurts that you buy from the shops for kids, you might spend $2 or $3 per, Alana's off researching, finding her own little pockets that she's bought on eBay or something like that. And then she's making her own Greek yogurt and she's making her own yogurts. And all of those little things just helped us save that huge amounts of money really quickly. And I think it was all those sort of things that I guess proved or helped our confidence grow, because as that primary account grew, and so did our confidence. And yeah, there you go.
I think it's a lovely summary in terms of, and before Money Smarts, were you thinking about annual targets of surplus? Like, was that on the radar? Like, what sort of budgeting approaches? Because as you're saying, you're living paycheck to paycheck, but with maybe even with the Barefoot system, did you get a sense of the target that you were trying to get to, as opposed to what you can do with the Money Smart system?
No way. And that's why the plan, it was just invaluable for us. We knew that we had to save money, and we knew ways that we could do that. But there was no goal. There was no, right, in this month, in this year, we're going to buy this, or we're going to save up, or we're going to spend this amount on a new car in this year, or we need this amount of money for the school fees. There was none of that. There was none of that planning or structure. It was just, you just save money and put it away, and then it'll all work out. And that was when, I suppose, getting the professional help was just invaluable, and it's worth every dollar that we paid.
Where the value is in telling those stories about the yogurt and the fence palings and all those sorts of things, where the value is for our community that are listening to this is you're actually having this conscious input into where you're actually getting your money to work. And what it doesn't mean, you said, I don't want to be that guy, right? But it's interesting if someone else can relate to that or has a different story. But what it means is you can be the guy that then spends on the things that you love, whether it's holidays, travels, experiences, whatever it is for you, right? That's why you do those little things. That's why Alana goes and researches the little pockets and puts the Greek yogurt in and saves a fortune, right? Because then you're squirreling away and you're getting more money into lifestyle design, which means that you go to the concert that you want to, or you go on the holiday that you want to, you can get an extra week on your annual leave. And I don't want that message to be lost here for all of the people that are listening to this, because that is where the gold lives. Because money smarts means that you're consciously spending, but it also is a habitual process. If you've heard us say it once, you've heard us say it 1,000 times. Money is simple, behavior is hard. So what you and Alana were doing was building these behaviors. You're building these habits that meant that you were building confidence. You were seeing the results in your primary account, and all of a sudden now you have this peace that comes from knowing that you two have got this. You've got a rhythm. You've got this communication. There's real collaboration in what you're doing, and I'm sure that means that when you do spend your money on things that you both love to do, you do it with a bit more sort of freedom, rather than sort of that dread that people who don't have control of their money, or don't do the little 1%ers that you're doing, they then go and buy the tickets and go to the footy or go on the holiday they love, but they still have this little niggle in their spirit that says, oh, I'm just parting with the cash.
Absolutely. And that was, and it's those little things that helped us. I mean, we obviously saved a lot of money, but like I said before, we still spend money that isn't planned, but we do it with a lot more thought. And as you were speaking just then, Bryce, I was thinking, well, we bought a boat, because there's the family holiday house up on the Murray River, and we all love water skiing and spending that time with the family over summer when we can get away from work. And buying a boat is that was a huge cost, and it wasn't in our plan, and it wasn't a decision that we made lightly, and it was one that we put a lot of thought into, but we could do it a lot easier knowing that, we were going above and beyond on the week to week basis. Yeah.
Now, were there any trade-offs for the boat? Like in terms of when you were thinking about, not only do you obviously have the one-off cost, you have registration, running costs, servicing, those types of things. Was there enough sort of fat in the game to allow that to happen? Or did you actually say, well, if we want this, do we give up on something else?
Yeah. So, and this is the beauty of the plan. We had that figure that we needed to be at, and we had our goals, and we knew that the next investment property was in this amount of time, and we knew that spending that money on a boat, and luckily for us, the in-laws went halves, so it wasn't as bad as what it sounds. But
coax them into it. You just sort of say, "Hey, this is a great opportunity for
something like that." Yeah, but at the end of the day, that was still a chunk of money, and there was a consequence to that. So what it meant is that, instead of being able to maybe purchase that next investment property 2 or 3 months ahead of schedule, we couldn't do that, and that's the sacrifice, I guess. But there was a lot of thought, and it wasn't a decision made lightly, and we're still on track, which is great.
What are the conversations that you have with peers and friends around this sort of stuff, Matt? Is it conversations you have in your peer group or your networks, or is it still something that's just you and Alana and you don't speak openly within your crew?
No, I think. I mean, I don't go out and sort of broadcast it, but definitely amongst our closest friends, yeah, we often talk about it with the in-laws who believe it or not, they live next door to us. We speak to them all the time about money and our system, and we're really, really, really open about it, and that's what helps us so much, and that's the way that I guess I'm trying to or want to be with the kids when they grow a little bit older.
So, Matt, let's give the community some context. There's 6 of you, as you say, because people are probably thinking, wow, okay, 2 detectives, what do police salaries look like? Because you've obviously got a larger family, but you are in a fortunate position in the respect that you've decided to rent vest as you've been doing your lifestyle by design. And so take us through the decisioning process that you came to, in terms of when you're doing lifestyle by design, you've got to say, well, do we need a principal place of residence, or how are we going to invest? Where does our money go? So you've demonstrated clearly that you set up Money Smart, so you're going to be able to achieve more because you're saving more money. That's the first cab off the rank. Now you're in that sort of goal setting stage. So take us through what you and Alana talked about when you were planning to become what you plan to become, and how you decided on the pathway that you decided on.
Yeah, we are so lucky. We have an incredible opportunity where we live at the moment. It's a a large property on the regional fringe of Melbourne. It's owned by my in-laws, so it's obviously very beneficial to us. They live next door. In terms of our plan, we plan to retire when I'm 59, Alana will be 60. It's in the year 2046. And to get to that point, and the passive income goal is $100,000 a year. To get to that point, we need to purchase a investment property about now. So luckily for us, the pre-approval is just been squared away. And hopefully by the time this airs, we'll have another one, or we'll be close to it anyway. And then there's another one that's optional in 2034. So it's a little while away. And so that'll be 2 investment properties with the option of a third, and obviously the principal place of residence. And that's our plan.
Now, can I just jump in there for one other important piece of information for you and that is in the police force, there is a very generous super plan as well. So one of the things people might be going, wait a minute, raising 4 children, even in our model, it doesn't necessarily work for us, whether we're doing it by ourselves or getting, third party advice. That is also because when we do our planning models, we also talk about the super contribution that's going to be a part of that. And in your particular case, they are, I'm assuming they're defined benefits or very close to it in terms of additional money that gets contributed to super. And that's the other bit of the nest egg for you. That means that it's only, you can be 2 properties or an optional third and be done.
Yeah, very, very lucky. I'm told we're one of the very few lines of work that have a defined benefit at my age. So yes, it's very helpful for us, and and a huge reason as to why that 2 or 3 investment properties will get us to where we need to get to. Yeah.
Now I'm curious as to the journey that you come from, and this is, these podcasts are about financial transformation and basically doing what you're doing. What's inside the other goals? Have you got any special holidays, or have you got any other sort of big ticket items? There's a boat now, which is great. But has that made you think about, 10-year wedding anniversaries and 25-year wedding anniversary special trips, or trips away with the kids, or, private school, public school? Tell us about, those types of conversations that have been had, and whether you've whacked any of those sort of special things in the model.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a provision for holidays. There's at least the one overseas holiday a year. When the kids are a little bit older, there's a bigger holiday planned. There's not private school fees, but Catholic school fees. There's lots of those type of things, and it's having it all set out and planned. It's sort of just set and forget, and it all of a sudden it's made possible.
What's it? Have you, in terms of what's at stake here, right? Clearly the previous marriage had some challenges around finance, and I'm sure a bunch of other things, right? But where's the potential derailer for you and Alana here, in terms of, you got the plan, you got the money smarts? What are you constantly on the lookout for? Because you clearly know what's at stake, because you've experienced it, right? When you didn't get under control with your money. Do you think about that? What is it that you're looking out for? And if there is something conscious that you're looking out for, what are the steps you put in place to make sure that you don't go to a slippery spot?
This is that benefit of the buffer and setting up those defenses, and the financial planning that I just had no idea about at all. And I wouldn't have unless we'd sought that help. So, I know that worst case scenario, there's enough money sitting there to get us by until we can sort of work our own way out. I know that if something horrendous was to happen at work, that there are those defenses in place that will help sort out the family. And I suppose that just gives us that level of security and comfort, knowing that, no, you know what, worst case scenario can happen, we'll be okay, or we'll get by.
And what a wonderful feeling that you get that peace. And you've just described, even any of the derailers, you've already put some boundaries and some mechanisms in place to make sure that's okay. What would you say to people who were contemplating? Maybe they can resonate a bit with the fact that you said you were shocking with money. What's your what would you like to say to them if they're considering, oh, maybe I should consider sort of money smarts might work for me?
Just start, just give it a crack. Start with a week, then go to 2, you need to, I don't know how else to say it, just need to do something rather than just the same old cycle, because you won't get out of it until you start to help yourself and start to look further than the next paycheck, I guess.
Nice.
Now, Matt, is there been any disagreements with Alana around the priorities and the goals or anything like that? You mentioned earlier that you're on the same page, more broadly speaking, but has there been, wants, needs, desires, adjustments in movements of those in terms of when you want to execute on those as part of that planning process?
I'm still waiting for the disagreement. Look, there's always little bits and pieces that we work through, and like everyone else, but we are just, strikingly similar in our goal setting and our morals and where we want to be and when we want to be there. So look, no, we haven't had that big derailer, I suppose, yet.
Sounds like you've got a puppy dog that wants to in on the
yeah,
chat.
Yeah,
there is.
Matt, what I love about your story, right, is this story of, aspiring Australians wanting to provide for their family. Yep, you've gone through some, leaner years and some more challenging years. You've grown from that, but you've always had what I refer to as a future orientation around, what's going to be important to you. So my question to you is, now that you have this, plan to become what you plan to become, and you got this visibility on your story, how does that make your life better? What does it do for you in terms of your story?
It takes away all that stress of, that bug that's in your mind saying, no, you have to actually do something here, or you have to account for this later, and this. It's all planned, it's all set up, it's all ready to go. It takes away that whole stress around planning for the future.
And with now that you're sort of, an A grader when it comes to money smarts, how long does it take to do the monthly checkups?
Yeah, and again, we don't do a monthly checkup every single month.
Yep.
But not long, no.
Yeah.
And I guess we've been really lucky, and especially, and I don't want to say it at the risk of sounding insensitive, because it's been a horrendous couple of years for a lot of people. We've been really lucky and fortunate. We've managed to keep our jobs, and it hasn't had a huge impact on us, where it has had a horrific impact on a lot of people.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we've been able to get through it and come out the other side.
Beautiful.
Hey, my final question for you, Matt, is really simply, throughout the year, I throw out this call. I set everyone up at the beginning of the year saying we're going to do a summer series at the end of the year. And then in the middle of the year, I warm you up. And then I finally said, okay, we're doing the call for summer series now. Why did that resonate with you? Because it's one thing to say, oh, I'd love to tell my story, but it's another thing for you to put your hand up and actually come on here and tell us. So what was it that sort of called you to come and share your story with our community? And part B of that is, when you wanted to share it, what was the main message that you wanted to get across for others to hear?
Yeah, I guess we're normal people. I'm a normal bloke. We're a normal family. We've gone through some things. We've come out the other side. It is possible for anyone to do this. You don't have to be earning $300,000 a year. You don't have to be, I'll never drive around in the Lamborghini. We'll never have the multi-million-dollar yacht, but we will have a very full life. We'll be very comfortable. And I guess I just wanted to share that with people. And it is possible. It's possible for everyone.
And Matt, for me, my final question is, what gets you excited about the future?
Oh, I can't. You've just been away up north and over in WA, and I can't wait to do something like that. So maybe 2046 when we're just on the brink of retirement, and we've got a new caravan, and everything that we've done for the last 25, 30 years has paid off. we'll be able to sort of set sail around Australia and do something like that.
And take a lot longer than what I did it in, so you can really pace it out and absolutely enjoy it, because it is, we're blessed in this country for a lot of wonderful reasons, but also just the natural beauty of the joint is unbelievable. So yes, it's those types of, again, it's all about experiences. It's not about the number of toys and the fancy assets that you own. The greatness and the love and the happiness all comes from, those moments of time together and those experiences. Money will not give you the happiness that you think it will, but it'll give you the memories, at that sort of more affordable level. You don't need to be a multi-millionaire to have an enriched life. So I think that's a great message, Matt.
Well, mate, on behalf of everyone here on the Property Couch, we want to thank you for joining us. I think there was so much just in the little 1%ers that you shared throughout that story that I reckon that people could take. I can take that. I can take that. I can take that. But also just the sense of peace that you get from knowing what you know, Matt, is just really inspiring. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for being vulnerable. What Ben and I do know is that these summer series stories do make a difference. They make an impact. There is something that you just said in the last 30 to 40 minutes that really resonated with a bunch of people, that will really cause them to act and make a change. So props to you. Well done. Thanks for coming on. And as I said, on behalf of everyone here on the Property Couch, we appreciate you swinging by.
You're very welcome. And thanks so much for jumping in my ears a few years ago.
Thank you, Matt. It's been amazing.
Yeah, and apologies to Alana that she had to endure us during those long trips on holiday. So, but well done, mate. Thanks again. We appreciate your insights and your candor.
Oh, I'll tell you what it does. These types of stories, Bryce, they encourage me about the mission that we're on. Mm-hmm. Aspiring Australians, just trying to forge a way forward, ordinary in their approach, but extraordinary in their application of what they're doing. Seeing people on the same page, clear values, clear whys in terms of what they're trying to do. Again, some false starts there, previous relationship falling over, kids rebounding, getting into a position. Obviously, in Matt's case and Alana's case, they've got that support network that's really helped for them, but also doing extraordinary work in our services, in being detectives. I tell you what, it's just a great feeling to know that there are people out there who basically saying, if it is to be Bryce, it's up to me, and I'm going to have a go at doing it.
Yeah, I like it. Couple of key takeaways for me there. I talked about in the chat. One was this is a message that I think would be really great for everyone to capture. But notice how it was only a couple of investment properties, Ben, and then because the super was strong, the lifestyle. This is not about how many properties can I buy.
No,
this is about how do I get the lifestyle I want, and then what do I need to mesh together with my current circumstances to actually be able to achieve that. So hopefully this shows some encouragement to some people. That's not about 10 properties. In this case, it was a pair, potentially a third. But the important part, it was a merging of all the other assets that is on this particular couple's balance sheet that conspires, Ben, together to make sure that they can achieve the lifestyle by design that they're chasing.
And what's the outcome, Bryce? The outcome equals time. Time back. Choice, time back.
And the other one, Ben, was the yogurt in the pocket story. I loved it because I loved what it represented. What it represented. It represented
the toy box.
Ruthless on eliminating on stuff that does not matter, that does not move the needle for you in your life, so that you then have surplus to put it into things that do move the needle on your life. So I just love the symbolism of what was going on there. Sure, it takes some time to stuff those little things, Ben, with all that fresh Greek yogurt that was being prepared, but symbolically it meant we are going to be gazelle-like on the stuff that doesn't necessarily move the needle on us. So that
I'll tell you what we also need, Bryce, is we need Matt to send us in a picture of the toy box. Apparently, if it's an epic toy box, I think we need to put it up on our socials.
Yeah, we should.
I think we need to put it up on our social. So hopefully Ibis can get into that and try and get that toy box into the
listeners
program.
can't see right now that I was just going, are you kidding me? That's another thing I've got to put in the show notes. But yep, that'll be there. I'm sure we'll certainly see if we can get our hands on that. But good on you, Matt. We never, ever take for granted. We get excited, but we never take for granted the fact that people will come on, bear their financial circumstances, bear their mistakes, all laid out so people can learn from them. So Matt, I can assure you that there will be people who've listened to your story that will learn from it. So there we go, Ben. We've ushered in the new year with a great transformational story that I think will serve a lot of people. So, but Ben, what do you say to the folks now who are in that New Year's resolution phase where they go?
Well, there's a little best-selling book that I know of called Make Money Simple Again that has a rules-based money management system that's a no BS approach to helping you organize your money, Bryce, and there's a free platform to use as part of that if you want to give yourself a challenge for the new year in terms of trapping all that surplus that you're currently not trapping. It's pretty easy to get to, isn't it?
It is. MakeMoneySimpleAgain.com.au. And here's the deal: if your story is a custard story of things everywhere, why don't you set yourself the goal to go and set it up, transform your life, and then get on Summer Series next year, so that we can showcase what you've learned, what you did, and how you transformed your life. Ben, a little teaser too, that anyone who goes and downloads that Make Money Simple Again book at .com.au, you are working in the lab on this little project that we'll just call it. Shall we just sort of name it Money Smarts 2.0?
I think that's a good working project name. Yes, we've been a little busy behind the scenes. We've sort of progressed it. We've got more to tell our community. It will, and I can promise you this: that the community, Bryce, is going to get first look. They're going to get the world premiere release of Money Smarts 2.0, right? Yeah. And also, you know,
will it still be free, Ben?
It'll still be free, Bryce. Okay. We've made a pledge that Money Smarts, the system that is Money Smarts, the basic system that is the simple system, the easy system, the system that controls money, the system. Yes, all of that will remain free. We've got a few things that we're going to build into this little platform of ours and this mobile app that I gave a little bit more of a clue away there, but so stay tuned is all I can say. But it's going to be released exclusively to our community first.
So if you want to be part of that community, the easiest way to do that is either go to thepropertycouch.com.au and just go and download any of our free stuff, or the simplest way is to go to MakeMoneySimpleAgain.com.au, leave your details there, and we will let you know about Money Smarts 2.0 before anyone else even remotely gets close to knowing about it, Ben. So that's exciting. You did slip more than I thought you were going to slip, Ben. So you must be feeling a lot of New Year cheer.
I'm no good at keeping secrets.
Good to know. But mate, until next week.
Knowledge is empowering, Bryce, and 2022 is the year to act.
It definitely is the year to act. Heard it here first, folks. See you next week. Hey guys, Bryce here again. Just want to catch you before you go and let you know, if you're new to our community, there are a lot of episodes to catch up on, but it's really important that you start from the very beginning at episode number 1, because episode 1 through to 20 share all of the foundational pillars and frameworks that you need to know to get the best out of listening to this podcast. So I'd recommend that you start there, and the little tip is to maybe start on 1.5 speed. Now, for those of you that are time poor and don't have time to go back from the beginning, don't worry, we've got you covered as well, because we've created a binge guide that goes through all of the details and makes it easy for you to read and get up to speed very, very quickly. So if you go to thepropertycouch.com.au/fast track, you will be able to download that binge guide and you will be up to speed in no time. And whilst you're there, I've got a few extra goodies for you, because we have our top 5 frameworks that you'll learn on this podcast, as well as the Make Money Simple Again ebook, which will help you with the foundations of basic money management, so you'll have everything you need to succeed in building your own lifestyle design and getting the best out of this podcast. Now, just a reminder that anything that we cover on this podcast is not considered financial advice. We certainly recommend that you get your unique circumstances looked at by your individual advisor, and everything we talk about is just general in nature. To thepropertycouch.com.au/fast track, and you can go and get all those goodies and catch up right away.